Are you riddled with fear? In this video, I share with you how fear and disease can have a powerful and destructive relationship. Welcome back to the Dr. Jake podcast. I'm Dr. Jake Schmutz. I'm an integrative doctor and naturopathic physician in Salt Lake City. And in this podcast, I share with you how to heal your body down to the root causes and get your energy back without harmful drugs or surgeries.
My firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Yep, the only thing to be afraid of is fear itself. I'm here today to talk about the crazy connections between fear and disease. So let's talk about how fear actually affects your physiology and how you function physically when you do have this fear response. So first of all, when you have that fear response, it's a stressor. So it stimulates cortisol that's released from your adrenal glands. So it's not totally horrible to have that cortisol released periodically. But if you have that released all the time, it's going to lead to something called adrenal fatigue. The reason why this happens is your body's always producing cortisol. It keeps on pumping, pumping, pumping. And then over time, your adrenal glands are like, hey, I can't keep up with this anymore. I'm not going to make this cortisol anymore. And it decreases how much cortisol you're going to make. So you go through three different phases. Stage 1, adrenal fatigue. Stage 2, stage 3. Stage 3 is when you're not making any at all. Stage 2 is when you have an imbalance. You're making way too much, but not at the right times during the day. And stage 1 is when you actually have a good, healthy adrenal response. When a bear jumps out of the forest, you have that little fear response. You have it get out of there, but it's not lingering there for a long time. Also, we have a big dopamine boost when this happens. We have a big epinephrine, norepinephrine release, and that's another stress hormones. Okay, it's great short term, but if you have it long term, it's putting too much stressors on your body, and it's going to lead to chronic inflammatory process because of the release of the cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine. It's also going to mess with your parasympathetic nervous system response, which is parasympathetic nervous system. We don't feel at all. We don't know what's going on there. But when you mess with that, that's going to affect your breathing. It's going to affect your sleep cycles. It's going to affect your digestion, your inflammatory state, your immune system. All this is going to be affected when you mess with that parasympathetic response. And then it's going to mess with your vagal nerve, which is a big piece of our parasympathetic response. So tons of things happening. This is then going to affect cortisol, like we said. This is going to affect how much thyroid that's going to be able to get in the cell. So it's going to affect how your mitochondrial function works. It's going to cause disruption of how your hormones work, estrogen, progesterone, DHEA production, testosterone. All this is going to get out of whack. This chronic inflammatory response is going to then mess with how our gut absorbs nutrients. And then it's going to lead to possibly leaky gut syndrome. And then this could lead to imbalances of our whole immune response and lead to autoimmune diseases. So fear is not just fear. It's like, oh, no big deal. I'm fearful of things. It's going to totally affect your whole physiology throughout your entire body, and so many different areas are going to be affected. You're not going to sleep well. You're going to get anxiety, depression. You're going to get maybe hormonal diseases, autoimmune diseases, chronic fatigue syndromes. You're not going to be able to detox as well because you're going to mess with those detox mechanisms. So it's not just fear. It's a huge thing. It's going to affect our whole body of how it works. And let's talk about just the mental part of fear and how fear keeps you from actually accomplishing what you want to do in life. So let's say you wanted to become a doctor someday, but then you're fearful. It's like, wait, I'm fearful that I'm going to have to do all this school, and I don't want to deal with all that school and all the stressors that are going to go along with that. So that fear keeps you back there. Or you're like, oh, I don't want to take the MCAT. That sounds like a really horrible test. I'm fearful of that test, and I don't want to even engage in that. So that whole fear response kept you from becoming the doctor that could have been who you were supposed to be in your life. And then let's say you don't achieve your lifetime goal, then you're going to be depressed and anxious your entire life. And then this is going to affect your entire life too. So fear keeps you back. It keeps you from accomplishing what you really want in life, to be the person that you want to be, the person that you're supposed to be, to achieve your hopes and dreams. So we need to work on eliminating that fear because it's making us sick, and it's also keeping us from being the best person we can be. So how do I integrate mental, emotional stuff with all the other biological treatments that I do in my practice? So mental state is huge. If I don't help the mental state, they don't get better. This is what I see. The patients that I aren't able to get out of the mental trauma or get out of the fear or get out of this state that I'm a sick person, don't get, the people that I can't get out of there. People that are able to get out of this state of mind or don't have that state of mind in general, almost 100% of my patients get better. So the biggest thing keeping my patients from getting better is their own mental trauma. So it's a huge part of what I work on a lot, is try to help them with their fear or their mental anxiety states or their poor thought processes about their self-esteem or the identities that they have of themselves, or like being a sick person, for example. It's a big piece I work on. I help them in what I can as a doctor, but I also refer them to psychologists or other therapists to help them with this piece so they can get all the way better. Because I don't think they are going to get better if they don't work on all that stuff. It's a huge piece. Our brain is very powerful. Our brain can even make us sick. So if we don't work on the brain stuff and the emotional stuff that we're dealing with, we're not going to get better and get over the chronic illnesses we're dealing with. So I always integrate that. Yeah, visit our website, integrativemedica.com. Find our phone number there. Give my receptionist a call, and you can set up an appointment with me or some of my other great doctors. You also could just set it up straight out online and set it up through the website.
Wonderful. I love that you can see people from all over and that they don't have to live locally to be able to benefit from their time with you. For those of you who are listening, thank you so much for listening today. We're going to have the show notes down below with some of the details of what Dr. Jake talked about. And if you liked this episode, let us know by leaving us a positive review. And we'll see you all next week.
If you want to learn more about healing the body naturally and getting down to the root causes, click my videos to the right. I'm Dr. Jake, and I'll see you there.